Welcome to the lecture. Let's understand what is protocol. Let's do a quick review of what challenges we are solving it here. So we have seen up the communication gap between Jim and the Bob, wherein Jim is a buyer, Bob is a seller. Jim want to buy a phone and Bob want to sell the phone. The two challenges is challenge 1 is the language challenge where Jim and Bob speak same language. The challenge 2 is the distance, how Jim can find Bob. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so this is the challenge. Let's see how we'll solve this challenge. So let's understand what is protocol. Okay, so Jim staying in USA and Bob staying in Australia, they might be speaking different languages. Okay, so the first thing they have to have is the agreement of the language. If they want to communicate, they have to say, okay, let's speak a similar language. Okay, so that we can have an agreement of a language first, so that we can speak, right? And that is nothing but a set of rules. Well, language is nothing but a set of rules, right? Language defines of what alphabets to use, how you pronounce them, and what words do you use, right? So these are basically the rules of a language. So in terms of protocol, protocol is nothing but set of rules. Okay, when two people communicate each other, they just typically agree onto a language. So if they speak the same language, then the communication can happen, right? In terms of a protocol, protocol is nothing but set of rules. Well, if Jim and Bob want to communicate with each other, the Jim says, let's speak in English. Then Bob says, all right, let's talk. So the communication gap has been removed. That is the first level of communication called as language communication, right? They agree onto a protocol, and protocol define what rules to use for that communication. Okay, so understand this concept of a protocol. When someone say what is protocol, it is nothing but set of rules, right? It is a rule using which you establishing the communication. In between the two people, we agree onto a language, could be an English language, right? And once we agree onto the language, then the communication can happen. Well, that solves the first problem. Does Jim and Bob speak same language, right? When they agree onto a similar protocol, so there has to be an agreement of protocol first. When two people want to communicate, there has to be an agreement of protocol so that these two people can communicate. Okay, so let's move and understand how these things happen in terms of computers. Well, how to system communicate? Even for a system to communicate, they have to follow a protocol, so that when a system communicate with each other, they first define what is the rules we're going to use to communicate. That is the first transaction that happens between the two systems. That is nothing but they follow a same protocol. They agree onto a protocol first before the communication can happen. Okay, so let's take an example. So think of an example of a TV via your remote. Your remote is trying to control your TV. How do you think your TV remote can talk to your TV? That's basically an agreement of protocol called as infrared protocol. This is the protocol that is programmed in the TV remote and also in the TV, so that they communicate via this protocol. Take another example of your phone via your Wi-Fi devices. You use nothing but a Wi-Fi protocol. So there is an agreement of protocol wherein your phone basically can talk to a Wi-Fi device. And also if it's a headphone, can you guess what is the protocol that we use to connect your headphone to your phone? Well, that's right, that is your Bluetooth protocol. So you see, for every devices to connect, irrespective of mobile devices or any of the hardware devices, there has to be an agreement first. So remember this, there is an agreement always happening between your devices before the actual communication can happen, before the actual data transfer happens. So they agree onto the same protocol. Okay, same set of rules, agreement of a same language. So now when Jim uses his PC to communicate with the Bob PC, okay, they use a protocol called as TCP/IP. We're going to deep dive into TCP/IP protocol in the next lecture. But on a very high level, we say that when two PC communicate, they have to agree onto a protocol. Okay, and if two PC want to transfer data, they agree onto a protocol called as TCP/IP. TCP/IP is a protocol using which we can transfer information between computers, and obviously you know the information between computers is zeros and ones. So all the zeros and ones that has to be transferred over between two computers is happening via this TCP/IP protocol. We're going to deep dive into what is this protocol all about in the next lecture. But on a very high level, understand this now. When Jim computer want to talk to Bob computer, they use something called as TCP/IP protocol. So how this communication typically happens, right? The first thing that happens is Jim send a request. That's where the data transfer of TCP/IP happens. Someone has to initiate the request. So Jim PC basically send a request to Bob PC saying that, hey, I want to buy an iPhone. Then Bob PC can respond saying that, okay, this is my response and I'm interested to sell my phone to you. Okay, so that's basically the communication that is happening between the two PCs. And that's how the challenge that we have seen previously, how Jim can buy a phone and Bob can sell a phone, challenge can be solved via this communication. Okay, so let's understand what is a protocol. So what is protocol? Protocol is nothing but set of rules. Remember this definition forever. Okay, if someone asks you what is a protocol, think it has a set of rules, some rules that is being defined already in that protocol. So protocol is nothing but a set of rules that defines how to communication can happen between the two devices. As I told you, two devices has to agree on to the protocol first, then the communication can happen. Every machine is programmed with a protocol that is nothing but the rules to communicate. If two computers are talking, if two hardware is talking, if a machinery is talking to another machinery, there is something called as protocol already been defined. Okay, the protocol is something like an handshake. They first say, okay, let's start communicating and this is the language I'm going to use. Then the other person agrees to that language, then the communication happens. Okay, so devices agree on a common protocol before they communicate. This is a very, very important line that you have to remember always when you think of communication between the two devices. Any two devices in the world that you take in, they first agree on to a protocol. Once they agree on to a protocol, then they start communicating on that protocol. And what is a protocol? Protocol is a set of rules. Well, here is some of the examples we have seen previously. Protocol is a set of rules to communicate. Your phone can talk to your Wi-Fi devices using a Wi-Fi protocol. Computer can talk to a server, download files, upload files via an FTP protocol. You are sending emails, then obviously it is basically an email protocol. Well, that's basically solves the first challenge, that is the language challenge. And the language challenge is solved via the protocol. So they first agree on to a protocol. So in terms of Jim computer and the Bob computer, they agree on to a protocol called as TCP/IP protocol. And Jim initiate the request to say, I want to buy a phone. The Bob send a response to Jim saying that, okay, I'm going to sell the phone to you. Well, so challenge 1, that is a language challenge. Does Jim and Bob speak same language? Is solved via agreeing on to a protocol. Okay, and what is a protocol? Protocol is a set of rules. So let's look at the challenge number 2, that is a distance. How Jim computer can find Bob computer. Okay, so let's understand this definition by understanding what is internet. All right, so let's jump in another lecture, understand what is internet.